Good afternoon and welcome to live coverage of Stage 7, the penultimate stage of this year's Tour of Britain. We are down in the bottom left-hand corner of the country in Dartmouth, and beautiful weather it is too. Shirt sleeve order, in fact, for myself and Rob Hales, although I obviously have made the schoolboy error of not actually wearing shirt sleeves. Rob, well chosen, sir.
It's all or nothing, isn't it, the weather at the moment, when you think back to Blackpool. But yeah, glorious day for the guys out there, and the crowds, it's really going to bring them out today.
With respect, I don't really want to think back to Blackpool just now. This is great weather, isn't it? So today is the story of the local boy, Jonathan T0ur, the British rider who yesterday assumed the lead of the Tour of Britain. If it wasn't decisive for him yesterday, well, today it might just have to be. No Bradley Wiggins on the start line at Welshpool, a stomach bug ending his Tour of Britain, but plenty of British interest out on the road nonetheless. There were two fans' favourites in the break of the day. Christian House at it again, hoovering up more King of the Mountains points, and Rally's Graham Briggs, the first time he's figured on the race. The roads took their toll on the breakaway, on Zach Dempster in particular, and on the race in general. Then it went uphill over Caerphilly Mountain once, with T0ur joining Briggs at the front of the race, and twice, this time in the company of Leopold Koenig. They gapped the field and they headed for home.
They're into the finishing funnel now. That's exactly what we expected. So it's Koenig that's going to come up here to take the stage victory. He takes the stage victory. Second over the line is Jonathan T0ur.
There was a major shake-up in the general classification again. John T0ur takes over as widely expected, but his gap is only 13 seconds to Lee Howard and 18 seconds to Nathan Haas, who picked up a 4-second bonus on the line. Boy Van Poppel drops to fourth, with Caruso and Jones the only other riders within a minute. Sky's challenge for the overall melted away today. Christian Knees dropping to 1 minute 34 seconds. Yes, indeed, it was the expected move from Jonathan T0ur on the stage that everyone thought he would have highlighted in bold before this race got underway, and he did just what we expected. Rob Hales, it's quite a difference for him, though, isn't it? Leading the Tour of Britain now. If we rewind a year, he was honing in on the King of the Mountains competition, but now he's got a weight of responsibility on his shoulders.
He has, and I think at the moment he's coped with it so well. He had 5th place last year, that King of the Mountains, possibly quite a surprise, maybe not to him, but to the rest of us, I think. Whereas this year he's come into it, he's really been talked up, and at the moment he's carried that weight of expectation so well.
2 ascents of Caerphilly Mountain in the closing stages yesterday. The first one, it was like a petrol-driven engine, really quick accelerations. The second one, a bit more of a diesel effort, wasn't it, with that Leopold Koenig fella on his wheel?
Yeah, it was. Koenig, he didn't have to push on. He was just going for the stage win, but it was all about T0ur and what he could do. And yeah, that last half of the second ascent, we just started to see his teeth a bit, and it's the first time we've seen him grit his teeth and try, and it was really good to see, actually.
He was calling Koenig through, saying, come on, help me, pal, but I mean, why would Koenig have done anything?
Yeah, he didn't have to. He was just there looking to make sure that he got that stage win, because he's nowhere on GC. He knew the pressure was all on Jonathan there, and he really had to press on to the finish.
It's really interesting. It's very scrunched up in the general classification. He's got Garmin on his heels. He's got Orica Green Edge there, and his team are down one man as well in T0ur, aren't they, after Zach Dempster crashed out yesterday? Yeah,
Dempster went down, possible broken collarbone, unfortunately, but the top 10, they're only covered by 33 seconds, so it's certainly not over yet. There's an awful lot of riders with a lot to lose, strong riders with strong teams. So yeah, enduro racing, it's capable, but they've got their work cut out.
Okay, well, as you might have gathered, John T0ur has a bold and bright future ahead of him, with a lot of big teams, including Team Sky, being rumoured very strongly to have signed his services for next season. It's the start, perhaps, of a long journey for John T0ur, and this is what he had to say after yesterday's stage.
John, congratulations, the overall race lead, an explosive end to the stage there.
Yeah, really tough one. It didn't feel explosive, it felt pretty drawn out, but yeah, just relieved to get across the line with a gap still.
And what was it important to you to fight for the stage win, or just to go for that overall and get it in the bag safely?
Just the overall. I mean, the stage win would have been nice, but I had company, and I got a bit of work, a bit of work shared. So, I was happy to let the stage win slip by. I still got some bonus seconds, and the overall is that's the main goal here this year.
Obviously, tactics now for the coming days, defend the jersey, but it's going to be explosive as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow's finish is a bit like today, maybe not severe, but there's a couple hard climbs and descent to the finish. So I think more of the same, but yeah, for sure we're gonna try and not let it go now.
Congratulations, John. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
The English Riviera. Look at that, in September. What's going on? Global warming. Bring it on. Tourist board hyperbole, absolutely living up to its name, though why that boat's called Teacher's Pet, I don't know. Rob, today's stage is undulating, unrelenting, isn't it? I've ridden over Devon, but the only time I ever rode along a ride, and it's horrible, isn't it?
Three categorised climbs, but an awful lot of tough rolling roads. It's going to be savage today.
OK, Rob, let's have a look at today's stage in a bit more detail then. It may not have the prestigious climbs of Stage 6, but the combination of heavy roads and gruelling terrain of Dartmoor will provide another stern challenge for the peloton. Starting in the North Devon town of Barnstable, the Tour heads south towards the wilds of Dartmoor that provide some great vantage points for spectators to view the race. Off the moor, it's a sprint to the coast and a finish on the quayside in Dartmouth. Well, there we go, and already it's been very interesting stuff, hasn't it, Rob? You might have picked up there, straight from the gun virtually, there was an intermediate sprint, and that sprint had an impact, didn't it, on the race already?
Well, it did. Lee Howard started today's stage 13 seconds, and he took 3 seconds back in that first sprint, so he's now down to 10. The way he was riding yesterday, I was really surprised how he stuck in there, so it's not over yet.
There we have the first 4 riders over the line. Lee Howard, Russ Downing and Boy Van Poppel all picking up time there, 3:21 seconds respectively. And Pete Williams picking up a point in the sprints competition there too.
Yeah, that Yodel sprints competition looks fairly done and dusted for him. He's only competing against his 2 teammates for that. So either way, it's going to go to Node 4 Giordano, that's for sure.
OK, now the breakaway, some very interesting names today. There are 10 men up the road. Initially there were only 5. They featured some big hitters, didn't they, Rob?
Well, they do. You've got Sanchez and Urtazan from Escatal, and it's an odd one actually because Urtazan, second in the King of the Mountains behind Christian House, didn't even contest any of the points yesterday, and today he's got himself up the front and he's trying to go for maximum points obviously today to try and bring that back. So that is an odd one. But Basso, yet again, Basso's up there. So we've got a really good group there. Strong riders on the flat and some really good climbers.
And everybody's favourite Curaçaoan rider is in the group as well, isn't he?
He's there. Mark DeMar's got himself up there yet again. What a race he's having. But yeah, it's going to be fairly animated, and the back end of this race is going to be tough. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
Now, yesterday we had some very serious climbs. Well, Caerphilly Mountain twice, right before the stage finish. I think there were only 2K to the finish line. That's not quite the case today, though, is it?
No, we've got a longer run-in, but it is a tough run-in. We've got 2 first category climbs in the middle of today's stage, and they come really close together. There's only about 14K between the 2 of them. So that could be quite decisive, and there'll be an awful lot of pressure that could be applied there, depending on how they race it out. And
if it all comes back together before the end as well, there are 2 intermediate sprints in which Lee Howard would be looking to pick up, what, another possible 6 seconds.
Oh, well, he could do that, and who's going to say that that's not possible for him? It's going to be difficult for T0ur and Locke, I think, to get up there in those sprints, but I can't imagine we're going to have a sprint finish today. But so we could see Lee Howard coming in up the front again as he did yesterday, but again it's all up to Jonathan to do the work, I think.
Yeah, wheels within wheels, races within races. The King of the Mountains competition has been interesting today. Christian House has a virtually unassailable lead, 42 points heading into today, but as you've said, Rob, Pablo Urtasun has picked up points on the road. This is the final of the 3 categorised climbs you're looking at now, and vast, I mean, Tour de France style crowds there to see him pick up another 10 points. 23 he's picked up on the road there, but Rob, the story of those pictures is look at the crowd.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, we were here early this morning and already there was more people at this finish than we've seen any other place. Obviously partly the location, but also that yellow thing up in the sky that's beaming down on us. It really is good to see, and I think for a lot of the foreign riders, it's quite surprising. They don't normally see this kind of crowds, other than obviously the major tours, Tour de France being the main one.
OK, well, you've lost your wingman in the commentary box today. I gather Hugh has been called to the World Championships, a high calling.
Yeah, World Championships. He's gone. He's flown off early this morning, so we've got a new team in today.
Jason Quigley will be commentating alongside you, but I'm going to have to release you now, Rob. Off you go to your commentary duties. And we shall... Declan Quigley, Jason Quigley's a very different man. I do apologise, Declan. Declan Quigley will be enjoying his commentary this afternoon. And Rob, I'm going to release you now. Off you go. We shall hear from you afterwards, and here are live pictures. As you see, those 10 men powering away, but the big question is, what will they be able to do about it? This will be a thrilling stage, whatever happens, and for John, T0ur and Locke, it could well be decisive. Join us after a short break.
So these 10 riders working in unison, just 10 riders up front and just under 2.5 minutes between themselves and the peloton behind. It's being controlled well by the Enduro Racing team of the overall race leader wearing the gold IG jersey. That's Jonathan Tiernan-Locke, and he's just lined up behind his riders, getting a little bit of assistance from Team NetApp, but mostly it's being left to the Enduro riders, and the one most prominent of all of those so far today has been Russell Downing.
Yeah, Russell Downing there, the one in there with the red, white and blue stripes on his sleeves there in second place, denoting the former national road race champion. Doing an awful lot of work. Had a big fall a couple of days ago, but managed to get himself back upright. A little bit skinned and grazed, as we see the back of the peloton here.
That's Big Maggie, who's had a hard day out. And he had a hard day yesterday as well. Long day in the break for him. Yeah. And not really, this is not the sort of parkour that will suit Magnus Backstad's skills.
Not at all. Won't be having fun at all out there, Maggie. But yeah, great ride he did there yesterday, and certainly still in recovery mode from that, I think.
So Enduro Racing getting a little bit of help from Team NetApp. They've put one rider up there, but it's pretty much being left for Enduro Racing, and you wonder just how strong their legs are going to be when we get to the back end of this race, as the legs tire, as the terrain starts to take its toll on the riders towards the conclusion of this stage. Well, that's when Jonathan Tiernan-Locke is going to have to be at his most vigilant, and I think he's really up for the stage win today. He knows he needs to get a little bit more time on his closest rivals, Lee Howard and Nathan Haas.
Yeah, and it's difficult terrain to come. No more categorised climbs today, but the route here really is difficult on the way down to the finish here on the promenade in Dartmouth. We do have those 2 sprints, so Lee Howard will certainly would have wanted to have got those, but it looks like this group is clear, so that will play into Tiernan-Locke's hands for sure, because none of these guys up here will make any difference whatsoever to the general classification and that IG gold jersey that's held by the Enduro Racing rider.
Jonathan, of course, well, what an occasion, what a moment for him, wearing the gold jersey on home roads with the huge crowds out to see him. Well, this is it's career-defining stuff for this young rider who really is emerging into the spotlight and is a rider for the future in a big way.
He is. He's in his late 20s now, but last year I think was probably a bit of a surprise. Certainly surprised a lot of us watching the race from the outside, but the way that he rode and then the way that he's gone on this year, Tour Med, one of the big season openers in France, down in the south of France, and he took that one fairly convincingly as well.
Took continental racing by storm. Yeah,
he did.
T0ur Haute and Tour Mediterranean.
Yeah, and I think the talk was as well that the guys out there for Enduro Racing were getting bullied about and jerseys pulled and whatever, which is part of the course really. It's quite usual for what is considered the smaller teams coming in and mixing it with the bigger teams. And at the start of the week, Tiernan-Locke was one of those who was getting shouted at and pushed out of the way and jerseys pulled. But I think that was probably part of what he used in his psyche. He certainly did, and he thought, you know what, I'm not having any of this.
And he's earned his stripes on the continent now. I think people are taking his wheel rather than trying to get ahead of him.
Yeah, most definitely.
Climbs,
and on the climb, they're not only trying to take his wheel, they're trying to stick on it and stick with him. And there was only one who was able to do that yesterday, and that was Koenig, Leopold Koenig from NetApp.
Yeah, he's got a fantastic motor, there's no doubt about it, and this rider is emerging at 27 years of age. But let's not forget, he suffered from Epstein-Barr virus for 3 seasons, really knocked him out in a big way, went to college, pretty much was an ex-cyclist, and then once the virus was clear, he was able to come back to it, and he's shown what he had all along that he never had an opportunity to show.
No, and it's a great shame for him, because obviously to miss that chunk, you know, it's not just the time that you've got where you have the illness. There's also 1, sometimes 2 years afterwards as well, where you get a little bit of lag and start to come back. So otherwise, if he'd have missed out on that illness and come through, you know, 3-4 years ago, when he was early mid-20s, then who knows what kind of a rider he could be. But incredible
Big years in his career,
had.
but it seems pretty much certain at this stage that he's going to be leaving Endura next season. And well, the hot rumour is he's off to Sky.
Yeah, that is the rumour. I don't think anything is confirmed as yet, but he's certainly moving on. And I think Enduro Racing as well will be moving up the ranks as well with their merger, by all accounts, with this team here on the back in the blue and white.
Yes, it's extraordinary that Team NetUp and Enduro are going toe-to-toe for stage wins and everything else this week, but they will become as one, as seems likely for next year, and it'll be interesting to see. I think it's probably likely to be an expanded roster, but decisions will have to be made about how the composition of that roster, and it will certainly be interesting to see exactly how many of the current Enduro riders will make it into that squad next year.
Yeah, it will be. I'm sure part of the negotiations there are that a certain amount of the riders will go through to that amalgamated team, and no doubt one or two of them from this squad here this week will be part of that.
This squad currently is at continental level officially in terms of the hierarchy of UCI competition, and Team NetUp is at pro continental level, so that will allow Endura to move up to the next rank.
Yep, and it will certainly put Endura themselves in the marketplace where they want to be in Europe. Obviously a big brand, Scottish brand, cycle clothing, but they'll be pushing for bigger market in Europe, and cycling is obviously one of the biggest adverts in Europe.
And pitching for the potential to take part in Grand Tour competition.
Yes,
yeah,
they are.
Looking for wildcards there.
Yep, and you know, British cycling brands are certainly coming to the fore, and Rafa as well. It's unsure what's happening to this Rafa Condor squad as we see it at the moment, because there's also talk of Rafa moving their sponsorship, their clothing sponsorship, onto another one of the bigger European teams. I don't know if we're able to mention that at the moment, but certain black, white and blue squad.
Well, that would be interesting, and yeah, the rumour mill is hot about what's happening with Rafa and all brands associated with British cycling, and indeed Rafa's an extraordinary brand, isn't it? Extraordinarily successful company, and one that's very much developing. No Rafa's in the break at the moment, though. 2 minutes and 35 seconds as it hovers between themselves and the bunch. 10 riders up front. Samuel Sanchez, the 2008 Olympic champion in Beijing, is joined by his teammate from Euskaltel, that's Pablo Urtazan. Ivan Basso's up there for Liquigas. Marc Demar, United Healthcare rider Jerome Koppel has made it into the top French time trial rider Marcin Bielablocki of note for Giordana. Bernie Sulzberger, prominent on the King of the Mountains at the top of Maryvale and Covenstone. Finished second on both occasions there. He's the man from Raleigh, the man from down under. Jan Barthe has been keeping a watching brief towards the back of the group for most of it, although I see he is starting to make his way up to do the odd turn now. Ronan McLaughlin is there for on post Sean Kelly. Second time he's made it into the break this week. And he'll be going for that wheel of cheese that he won one earlier in the week, won a combativity award. That's Marc Demar at the back in that Curaçao National Champions jersey. And Bernie
Sulzberger, they're just calling back for some service, wanting a drink. It looks like he's taking water on from the T0ur Sojasun team.
So just under 2.5 minutes between the leading 10 riders up front. They have been out there for a long time now. The gap at its maximum was up to around about 4.5 minutes, but nicely controlled so far by the Enduro Racing team. Further behind, 10 riders up front. If we run through them, there's Samuel Sanchez and Pablo Urtazan from Euskaltel. Ivan Basso is there for Liquigas. Marc Demar, United Healthcare. Jerome Koppel is in there, former under-23 time trial world medalist on a couple of occasions. Marcin Białobloki is there for Note 4 Giordana. Bernie Sulzberger of rally. Jan Barta and Ronan McLaughlin are prominent in the break as we see the team net up continuing to push, and as Ryder just taking the opportunity to inspect the scenery at the right-hand side of the road.
Looked like Jack Bobridge there from Orica Green Edge just pulling over. No doubt Hill will be coming to the front of the peloton at some time fairly soon, trying to bring this back. I think if his teammate, team leader Lee Howard, wants any chance of taking this IG Gold jersey at the end of tomorrow's race, I do think he needs those time bonuses that are available. It looks like they're going to miss out, I would imagine, on the 2 sprints coming in, the intermediate sprints, but those 10 seconds time bonuses on the line at the finish here in Dartmouth, extremely important. And whether or not Lee Howard can do it over and above
it's conceivable
Jonathan, it is.
It's conceivable that Jonathan Tiernan could finish in the same group as Lee Howard today and lose his jersey. So it's that important that he finds a way to get away from Lee Howard.
It really is.
And his skills, of course, should come to the fore over these roads. It's a hard day for these riders, and probably, you would imagine, a little bit harder for Lee Howard.
I think so. I was surprised how he came in yesterday in the finish in that last group. Extremely good ride by him. So I think the pressure's on him. I think the knowledge that Tiernan has on himself and on these roads, these local roads that he knows so well, really will play into his hands. And his teammates here, 3 of them, Downing, McAvoy, Bibby, and then just
of course Russell Downing,
shotgun.
Yeah, he's got his race face on there, and of course he'll be feeling a little bit tender. He's been on the floor already this week, so it's been a tough week, a hard day's work. And I suppose seeing Jonathan Tiernan coming into the jersey yesterday for that team, well, that's a great thrill. But of course the implications of it for Enduro Racing are that they're going to be spending the day on the front chasing the next day. For his teammates, it's like, well, all hands to the pump.
It is, and I think one of the things to note, we've got the top 10 is only covered by those 33 seconds, 33 small seconds between all the riders. So it is with the interest of other teams to work, Orica Green Edge being the main one, Garmin Sharp, and also United Healthcare, quite possibly Liquigas, but Liquigas, they've sent their man up front. They've got Ivan Basso ahead, they've got him clear, and that's probably quite a good move, because if this peloton does fracture at the back end of the race here today, then if Caruso can go clear, he is currently in 5th place at 23 seconds. If he can go clear in a small group, that means he's got a teammate up there with him, and what better teammate would you want on a finish like this tough finish, than Ivan Basso?
Yeah, that'd be an amazing day in his career for Damiano Caruso, that he would have Ivan Basso riding for him. And interesting that Samuel Sanchez, of course, is helping Pablo Urtazan. So some of the lesser lights are having their opportunity in the way that the racing has worked out. I suppose yesterday for Jonathan Tiernan, well, career-defining moment, taking the jersey, taking it into Devon. What a fantastic, exciting moment for him, but a bittersweet moment for Enduro in losing Zach Dempster. How significant do you think it is that they've lost his power today?
Well, I think Zach Dempster has played a big part so far in this squad, and as we mentioned earlier, we've only got maximum 6 riders, and we can see that Enduro Racing now, they are down to 5, and that is already quite a small team to try and control, which is why one of the reasons why they need other teams to come to the fore, because if we're looking at, say, one of the bigger, stronger teams like Team Sky, then they would have the horsepower to do that. But obviously Team Sky lost Bradley Wiggins, which was a big disappointment for them, going out with illness, and their man Christian Nice in 7th at 1:34 really did need a rider like that to help in the dying moments of races.
Is 1:34, with Christian and Kinaes with with the beautiful, with the incredible talent that he brings to it, he wouldn't necessarily have said that he's a climber.
No, yesterday was a difficult one to pick. I felt that he could have stayed up the front yesterday, but as it was his teammate Luke Rowe.
Wow, isn't this absolutely stunning scenery? It's a beautiful setting as they work their way through Devon, and riders, of course, won't have much opportunity to enjoy it, but I can tell you what, it really is an absolutely beautiful parkour today. Have you ever actually been able to take in the scenery in a race? Have you ever been grovelling on someone's wheel for half an hour and then looked up and said, "Oh my God, it's actually gorgeous out there"?
It's rare, if ever. These riders will be concentrating on the wheels in front of them, and it is true, we take the races through such beautiful scenery across Europe, and it's more for the viewers back home to see.
All you ever see is the hotel.
Yeah, it's the riders. It's not something that they particularly notice, and quite often a rider will see something, mention it later on back at the hotel. Oh, did you see such and such? And the other riders, no, I had my head down. And one of the riders with his head down today is the rider here from UK Youth, team leader Magnus Backstedt. Great day he had out there yesterday, but
it's a real Indian summer in Magnus Backstedt's career, isn't it? I mean, he had retired, he had back problems, from his accident, and I mean, he must. I'd imagine he's really enjoying being back racing. He can appreciate.
He is. I spoke to him the other day, and this is where he wants to be back, at this level of racing. You know, he rode so many years on the continent for the top teams. Paris-Roubaix winner himself, Tour de France stage winner, numerous Grand Tours that he's ridden, and then the last few years he's spent back predominantly in the UK riding for smaller teams, and then UK Youth is one of those growing teams.
And what an asset to have his experience and knowledge.
Extremely so. You for the younger guys on that squad, Magnus can pass on so much information, and he's one of those riders I know who does actually live now for that information and passing it on. So many do keep it to themselves, and
right.
You can learn the hard way, but he's not there. That's what he wants to do, and that's what he lives for.
Right, he's open and sharing. Graham Briggs at the back of the group, wearing the red numbers of the ruler most aggressive rider from stage 6. And Bernie Sulzberger up the front for Rally. At the front of the group now. They've pegged that advantage back to just over 2 minutes. One suspects that things are getting a little bit serious. Of course, as the road goes up and the group behind might be going down, the things can concertina a little bit and then extend again. And of course, behind, they're desperately trying to control and manage that gap, and then unleash the big guns towards the back end. Still, well, there's 36 kilometers left in this race, so we're getting towards the pointy end, getting towards the business end of this stage. And who's going to have the legs from the break to start shaking it up? Do you think we're going to see any shake-up from the break before riders come up from behind, or is it likely that they'll stay riding tempo?
No, I think they'll ride tempo for now, and then once the gap gets down to around about a minute, possibly a minute and a half, we may see one or two riders decide to try and go clear and try and animate this group. It's normal to see that kind of thing, but how much energy have these guys got left in? We're at the back end of the race. Stage 7 now, a lot of kilometers being covered over the last week. A lot of altitude meters have been climbed, an awful lot. So it's down to what the riders have got left. But one thing that will play into a lot of their hands is this weather. It will certainly help with the morale over compared to some of the weather that we have had and we have experienced in this race.
The riders will be tired, and some more tired than others. I mean, it's some riders bring different skills and different abilities to recover.
They do, and a lot of these guys, quite a number of them, are used to 3-week stage races. And others as not so, as we see Mark de Maar here, that unusual jersey, Carousel National
Road
Championship
race,
jersey, yes, one of the Dutch.
Should give a shout out to Jacek Marachko on the Bacom Soleil squad, who's also in the break. Not sure we mentioned him so far, and it's been a quiet old week for them, really. He's relatively well up on GC, but Vacon Soleil probably haven't been as prominent as they would have liked, but managing to get a rider into the break. The best place rider from the 10 riders up front is Jerome Koppel in 10th position. He's at 4 minutes and 16 seconds, so in reality not a threat to Jonathan Tiernan-Locke's lead. For these guys up front, it's all about trying to do something about stage honours, although, as you mentioned, perhaps for Ivan Basso, he represents a significant tactical opportunity for his teammate Damiano Caruso. If he has good legs, then Basso's there to help him in the end.
Yeah, I know that Basso was keen to perform well in these last few stages, the last 2 days, and particularly today with the kind of terrain. Wasn't enjoying the race too much. The racing itself, he loves being here on the race and the organisation that Nick Bennett puts on, and I think he's gone on record as saying that this is the best race behind the Tour de France, organisational wise. This is actually the best race.
Well, that's a fine tribute from a man who's seen everything, really.
It is, but I know that he was looking forward to 3 of these days, and this being one of them. The terrain, he loves it, and the sun shining on him. What is that? Yeah, he came into Blackpool the other day, and he certainly lost a few shades of tan during that stage. But he's back here. He's back up the front where he wants to be, and on the front we see Russell Downing just giving the thumbs up. Are we good? Is this good tempo?
Yeah, he's seen the blackboard indicating just over 2 minutes between himself and those riders up front. Interesting that Samuel Sanchez just floats to the front of the bunch, glides to the front. He's a demon descender, and he just loves hunching down over the bars. Excellent core fitness.
Yeah, it's one of the parts of cycling that I particularly enjoyed. The going downhill, the uphill was, it was hard for me and for a lot of the guys who don't particularly enjoy the climbing. They do become pretty good descenders.
By necessity,
yeah, and we often see the riders at the front of the race. That's often where the cameras are, and we comment on how good some of these guys are at descending, but actually it's the guys back in the gruppetto. A lot of the sprinters, in fact, their style of riding suits descending. And I know in some of the races, you know, the sprinters group, the gruppetto, the laughing group, whatever you call it, often descend a couple of minutes, 2.5 minutes, in fact, quicker than the front group, and they're the guys who really are riding on the rivet and pushing the boundaries of descending. But we often don't see that because, as I said, the camera's always up front, and those guys can often descend at their leisure within reason.
Yeah, and of course, look at them absolutely flying down this descent as the group stretches out.
Yeah, over 90 kilometres an hour we've seen from some of the riders, and the talk, quick, steep descents in the Tour of Britain, and these helicopter shots really do give you the perspective of how quick these guys are going.
Yeah, interesting, you mentioned the gruppetto. I don't think we give enough tribute and credit to the sort of ride they end up having to do.
Yeah, it's been mentioned a couple of times, especially on the Stoke stage, where certain riders have come in, you know, they came in 11 minutes down, how did they lose that much time in the last few K? Well, for the riders who aren't going for the gold jersey here, they're just going for stage wins. If they come in 2 minutes down, 4 minutes down, or 11, 12 minutes down, it makes no difference to them. As long as they make the time cut off, that's all they're looking forward to, and just getting themselves into the finish and just saving energy for the next day and for the sprinter stage, because there are races within races here, and we don't see all these riders all trying to get across the line in first place. And as we see here, teamwork being done. Sanchez done an awful lot of work. Here we can see, and the work he's put in, he's just having to have a little bit of a stretch there. Yeah. Sanchez just stretching out his quads.
Been a long day, been a long week, and he's starting to feel a bit tender.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's gone down as well earlier on in the week. I know he's lost a bit of time on a couple of stages, so could have been caught up in 1 or 2 of the crashes, as so many of the riders have done this week. And I know he looked like he was struggling a little bit early on there. He's just shaking it out again, that right shoulder, giving him a little bit of an issue, and quite possibly the aftermath of that massive crash that he had in the Tour de France, and he'll be struggling with injuries for quite a time to come, I'm sure, going into the winter and the back end of the season.
Riding with injuries is it's a fact of life for a professional bike rider.
It is, unfortunately. You have to get back up, and we see it a lot where riders crash and they get back up on the bike. As long as the bike is okay and mechanically sound, they get themselves back up and they have to ride, and then they'll check themselves.
And then find out how injured they are.
That's right, because they, the last thing they want to do is be going out the back of the race.
Samuel Sanchez at the back of the group, just gathering his thoughts ahead of the battle to come. So just over 30 kilometers between them and the finish. 2 minutes and 8 seconds. And the gap is starting to plummet now for the first time, well below 2 minutes, 1 3/4 minutes between these 10 riders up front and the peloton behind. They're taking on food and drink for the final push. Not much longer after these. They won't be allowed to collect bottles from the car. They'll have to make do with what they have on the bike. And meanwhile, behind, it's the Enduro Racing squad with a little bit of help from Team NetApp that are doing the damage. They are closing up on those 10 riders up front. Quick reminder of who they are. Samuel Sanchez and his Euskaltel teammate Pablo Urtazan are up front. Liquigas have Ivan Basso represented, Mark Demar of United Healthcare. The T0ur Sojason rider Jerome Coppel is there, as indeed is Marcin Bialblocki of Note 4 Giordana, Bernie Sulzberger of the rally squad, and Barta is there. Rona McLaughlin for on Post, Sean Kelly, and Jacek Marachko from the Vacon Soleil team. On Post represented by Rona McLaughlin, who is hoping to get selected for the Irish team for the World Road Race Championships next week. He's vying for that position with Matt Bramier, the National Road Race champion of the last 2 seasons. But McLaughlin's had a busy week. He's been in the break on a couple of occasions. He's showing that he's got good legs and would be an asset to Nicholas Roach or Dan Martin, whichever of the two is likely to contend. I think Dan Martin perhaps might be able to do something in the road race world, as Rona McLaughlin drops back to his team car.
Yeah, just got caught inside the wheels there. Team car tried to come up the outside. Got a left-hander here, so he's just going to have to watch out there from his vehicle. But he's obviously being told that this group, the time is starting to tumble. Now 1 minute 35. Could possibly take a drink, and there we go. Taking on some fuel. Not long now before these riders, as you said, are not allowed to take on board any more fuel, any more drink.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating the way the brakes manage to control the gap. I mean, there's this cat and mouse thing. It's like everybody understands the brake up front know when to start riding again to try and maintain their advantage, and the group behind don't want to let it get too big. And there's without any communication between the peloton and the brake, there is this understanding, all based on the times they've got.
Yeah, there is, and the general rule of thumb is 1 minute for every 10 kilometres. Especially for a classic flat sprint finish. So obviously at 30 kilometres to go, if the group's around about 3 minutes, then it could be quite touch and go. Whether it's brought back any less, then you can be fairly certain that there's a high possibility of it coming back. So here we can see with 26.7 kilometres to go, 1 minute 30. It's fairly sure that this group should come back, but as we've said, it's not a classic.
It's harder to manage when it's lumpy. Yeah?
It is generally harder. But having said that, what happens is when we get to the real dying death of the race, as we saw yesterday, and the road goes uphill, those riders who have been out in front can often they just stop dead, and they really do start to tumble. So it's a lot harder to manage on circuits like this. But the general rule of thumb. 10 seconds for every, 1 minute for every 10 kilometres.
And I guess the assumption as well for people who mightn't watch cycling that much is that the group up front is so much smaller than the group behind, so it should be relatively simple for the group behind to close it. But of course the number of riders that are actually doing the riding on the front of the peloton is relatively few, so it's almost like a match race, 10 against 10 or even 10 against 6.
It is. As we approach 1 kilometre to the next sprint, and we've just got McLaughlin there going back, just having a bit of food. Trying to unwrap one-handed. Or is he looking at his notes even?
Looking for the script. See, does it have him as one of the winners today?
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned it is a smaller group than obviously the peloton behind, but this is, relatively speaking, a big group. Normally 4 or 5 riders away, but with 10 riders here, obviously there's a couple of them just been missing turns. Netap, obviously, for one, Jan Barta has not been contributing much, and why should he? He's got one of his teammates trying to actually help and aid this group coming back. But yeah, 8 riders or so against the 4 or 5 behind. At the moment, it's been more towards the front group, the advantage.
Coming up towards the sprint at Kingsbridge, second sprint of the day. The first sprint, of course, was taken by Lee Howard, but he's not going to have an opportunity to close that advantage between himself and Jonathan Tiernan Locke, because it's the riders at the front that are going to mop up all the points and the bonus seconds, more particularly.
And those sprints taken there by T0ur Giordana. He's looking to take those points, just helps his teammate, who is currently leading that competition.
Yeah, Peter Williams with significant advantage, and his teammates second and third in that competition. So Biela Blanchi just reaffirming T0ur Giordana's dominance in the Yodel Sprints competition. And nice professional work from him. He makes his way back to the back of the group.
Coppell just having a little word with him. He's obviously been sat on for a while, and then he nips the sprint. So yeah, not happy there, but that's his job. That's what he's doing. That's one of the reasons why he's up here in this group.
Yeah, riders often have, you know, very different perspectives, very different agendas.
Always conflicting interests in the peloton, and yeah, a lot lost in translation as well between foreign riders. But there we go. That's, you know, we all go out there and we have a job to do. And
of course, most people have English now, really. I mean, English is fast becoming, if it isn't already, the lingua franca of the peloton.
It
is.
The term. Yeah, it was always French, as we see the peloton just coming forward now.
Not far behind as Russell Downing leads them through the Yodel Sprints point, but of course no points on offer for the bunch behind. And what a solid job that Russell Downing has done up front. A couple of seasons on the continent with the Sky team. He's moved across to Endura Racing this year, and a great opportunity for him to show his worth and his value to current and indeed perhaps future and indeed past employers. The race leaders are within 20 kilometres of the finish in Dartmouth, as the gap has shrunk now to 1.5 minutes. T0ur Racing still piling on the pressure at the front. Lots of tired legs in the peloton today, lots of tired legs out front amongst the leading 10 riders. Samuel Sanchez still in there. Up front, joined by his teammate from Euskaltel, Pablo Urtazan, who's taken top King of the Mountains points at Maryvale and Coffin Stone, and closed the gap a little between himself and Christian House in the Skoda King of the Mountains competition. But still, you would imagine that Christian House is in good shape there. Other riders up front of the break: Ivan Basso of Liquigas, Mark Demar of United Healthcare, Jerome Coppell of Sour Sojasan is there, Marcin Biela Blanchi, as we mentioned, has done a great job for T0ur Giordana. Bernie Sulzberger for Rally, Jan Barta is up there, as indeed is Ronan McLaughlin and Jacek Morachko.
All these riders ridden extremely well together today. They've all taken, pretty much all of the riders have taken it in turn to set the pace. Just the last few kilometres, there's 1 or 2 being sat on.
Confirmation of the final sprint with Biela Blanchi first across the line ahead of Morachko and Demar, and they take the bonus seconds. Really not of any value to them. Disappointment perhaps for Lee Howard that he wasn't able to get involved in that sprint, but as he said earlier, Rob, if he can get up the front, if he's in the shake-up for final sprint honours, then he has every chance of closing that gap significantly, or perhaps even snatching the jersey.
Yeah, T0ur Racing have done a fantastic job today by pegging this group, just keeping it within a manageable time gap. But as we said, not wanting to bring it back too early because they didn't want any of the other sprinters, the better sprinters, to take those time bonuses back on those final 2 Yodel sprints. More notably, Lee Howard, obviously, he won the first one today and took a valuable 3 seconds, so cutting his deficit from 13 to 10 seconds. They're in second place behind race leader, current race leader, Jonathan Tiernan-Lock from Enduro Racing.
Gap opens up a little bit again. It's all good news, you think, for Lee Howard. It's a testing and lumpy finish to the stage, but if he can hang on in there with Jonathan Tiernan-Lock in the end game, then he will have an opportunity. He's a good track man, definitely a good galloper.
Yeah, he would. Man on man, you would definitely put Lee Howard in favour of Jonathan for the sprint finish, but it's a lot of difficult road. Yep, it's short and extremely sharp. These last few kilometres. We're about to start it. We're about to see it fairly soon, and I would imagine that this group will start to split up, and possibly a small handful of these guys trying to go clear and really trying to force the pace. 2 minutes now. It seems to be going back out a little bit.
That's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it looked a few minutes ago as if they just decided to close it off and shut it down, and that other teams were going to start getting involved. But throttle back and the brake have re-established that advantage. And as you can see, there's an indication they're spread wide across the road. Jonathan Tiernan-Lock safely escorted by his Enduro Racing teammates. Sky starting to get involved up front.
Yeah, it's actually good work by Enduro Racing. They don't actually want to bring this break back because they want those valuable time bonuses obviously taken up by the riders out clear, because it will not affect his GC chances.
And so many teams represented up front, of course, that won't be getting involved in the chase. So
yeah, and we see Team Sky just trying to move to the fore. They're looking to try and upset things here. Mark Cavendish, shots of him. He's made it back into this group. I saw him distance on one of the climbs, but he got himself back in with the help of Jeremy Hunt. So he's here, but I can't imagine that they're trying to set it up for him today.
It's tough to see him getting over those last couple little stingers.
It is, but who knows?
Yeah.
Certainly not beyond his capabilities, but the form that he's got at the moment, I really don't know. I think they're probably looking more for the interests of their rider just back there, about 10 back, Christian Nice. He's their rider for general classification. He's up there. Just outside a minute now, in 7th place, a minute and a half. In fact, as we see Mark Cavendish there, just on Walter Subrandi from IG Sigma Sport there, just ahead of him.
Cavendish is doing a great job, you'd have to say, today. And you'd never rule out a man who has won Milan-San Remo. If you can make it up the Poggio after however many hours it is out there, then it's definitely possible. And if Cavendish did manage to come up with a stage victory today, well, what a cheer there would be, and what an extraordinary achievement it would be for him.
It would be. He's worn that jersey with honour and pride, and he certainly wants to do it justice. But it looks here, the riders now being told 2 minutes. It's going to be difficult now for this group, for at least the front of them. We may see 1 or 2 of the riders be caught by the riders behind, but it's looking more and more unlikely that this group is going to get caught. And I would imagine that the winner of today's stage here in Dartmouth is going to come from one of these riders.
Inside the final 10 miles, this group have 2 minutes and 10 seconds, 10 riders up front, and pretty soon I think they're going to change from defence to attack as we come towards those little lumpy bits towards the finish. Which riders are going to go on the attack? But would you care to put your money on anyone who's likely to go to the fore?
Yeah, I think off the top of my head it would have to be Sanchez, but he's still working hard. Both the Euskaltel riders working extremely hard. I would imagine that if Sanchez wants to take the victory, that they would swap roles, and it would be Urtazan who would take up the teamwork role. Sanchez has done such a good job for him today, helping him take those mountain points earlier on today in the stage.
Ivan Basso's clearly on good form, seems motivated, seems to be enjoying himself, and the talent and the experience and Palmares that he brings to this stage would indicate that he will definitely contend. He seemed very comfortable rolling over the top of the summits of the two King of the Mountains that this group have been away for, the Maryvale and Coffinstone. Third over the line on both of those occasions. Probably wasn't, I mean, it certainly wasn't contending for points, but obviously clearly was able to just scoot over them quite simply. So yeah, we'll see as Ivan Basso got it. Is he up for the stage win? I feel confident that if he's decided to go up the road for the full day, he's clearly enjoying his Tour of Britain experience.
He is. I think if he wants to do that, he's going to have to use the uphill parts of the last few kilometres. Certainly not a flatland rider by any means, but he's also not really the punchiest of climbers. He tends to prefer the longer, steadier climbs, the long, 30, 40-minute climbs. As we see attacks going off the front, and that looks like Nice. It's Christian Nice there, the German rider for Sky, who really is starting to attack now and really start to stir things up.
Well, that is interesting, and it's interesting that Christian Knaes, who is lying at 1 minute and 34 seconds in arrears of Jonathan Tiernan-Lock, gives a little dig, sees what sort of damage it causes, whether anyone else is interested. Are all Sky's tactics focused on Christian Knaes? Are they thinking about Cavendish? Is Knaes working for Cavendish, or is he...
I would imagine it would, if anything, it would be for their other riders. Luke Rowe. Luke Rowe was right up there yesterday in the stage. He finished only in fifth place, only 19 seconds down in that small group. So again, fairly local, the Welsh rider. Could possibly be that they're not looking at GC and they're just trying to look for stages now.
Well, Luke Rowe is clearly on absolutely flying form, just 22 years of age, and won the first stage, of course, and an emerging talent on the Sky team. And what a great year there'd be if he was managed to come up with a decent result, but it's going to be tough. Now down within 2 minutes, that little bit of flurry of excitement led by Christian Knaes has had an immediate impact on the lead of this group up front, but they're still riding steadily. And it's certainly going to be tough. They carry, well, if they carry a minute and a half into the final 10 kilometres.
Yep, riding along the coast here. Beautiful view there, but the view that these riders won't really be looking at. They won't be paying much attention to that at all. Just the straight road ahead of them. Only a few hundred metres now until the final Yodel sprints of the day. And once we go through that, that's where the road starts to pick up. And I think that's where some of these riders, some will be looking forward to it and looking forward to the opportunity of putting some damage and putting some pressure onto these riders, and some of them not looking forward to it whatsoever.
And they're hunched low over the bike, so they certainly seem to be working as we head towards the final sprint of the day, final Yodel sprint. And these riders still riding up and over fast, so no sign of any attacking riding from this group. And would you perhaps be advising, if you were DS in a car behind, would you come up to your, which rider would you come up to and say, come on, we've got to get going, got to think about an attack here?
I think looking at it at the moment, it's now down to 1:45. It's still possible that this group could come ahead and catch the break, but if the time was much less, then I would certainly say the guys up front, you really do need to start putting attacks in, and I think we will see that any minute when the road starts to bank up and go uphill. As we see all the riders here, obviously a little bit of wind. What wind there is coming from the left-hand side. This is why the riders up the front are in the right-hand gutter, not giving anybody else any shelter. As we see Mark Cavendish here, further down the back. Dan Lloyd, IG Sigma rider, who's had a fairly quiet race, unsurprisingly for him, but he's been there working for his team leaders.
Interesting that a couple of on-post riders went to the front, a couple of Vacansoleil were on the front, and I think as much as anything they'd be about setting a tempo that was a little bit slower than Endura, and immediately Endura respond. They grind their way back onto the front, and these riders must really be suffering now. They've been out there on the front all day, and Orica Green Edge as well getting involved in the chase. Clearly it's super important for Orica Green Edge that they can get Lee Howard into contention for those bonus seconds at the completion of the stage today.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier at the start of the season, Jonathan Tiernan-Lock and his Endura teammates were getting pushed about and bullied somewhat in the early races, getting their jerseys pulled, but the stature that the rider has now, he's actually being pushed by the
He's
foreign
been
riders.
ushered back into the line.
Yeah, I mean, that's what wearing the leader's jersey does. Everybody, even the other teams, do tend to kind of look after you a little bit. They certainly won't ride you into the finish, but there's generally the riders do have a lot more respect for you.
What is the real potential of Jonathan Tiernan-Lock? Is it possible to speculate? I mean, he really is the emerging star of the British stage racing scene, if you want to put it that way.
He is, and he's just been selected this week for the World Championships next week in Limburg, and who knows what that rider can do on that circuit. He is there for learning, and it's certainly a different style of racing to what he's normally been used to, but who knows. He's certainly got a lot more potential, and when he's in a bigger squad, he will only flourish, I'm sure. As we see the riders hitting this tough section now, only 10 kilometres to go, and I'm sure we're going to see some kind of attack. We must see an attack from that group. Mark
Cavendish hanging on in there. We'll be hoping that this group is closed down, and the gap is plummeting, and it looks as if Mark Cavendish's day is done. He just floats off the back, and the intensity and the effort of trying to stay in the wheels, well, means that he's just not got the gallop required. Or is he just waiting for his car behind? Maybe he's calling the car up.
Yep, it's actually his own teammate putting him out the back there. Jeremy Hunt just doing last-ditch effort as we see the first of the rider here starting to lose contact. Bialabroki from Node 4.
So he wasn't scrubbing at the back, he was actually feeling it. So fair play to Marcin Bialablock. He's been on the front and up front for quite a bit of this week, and this definitely not a parkour that would suit him, as the attacks come from behind, and it's T0ur that are setting it up for Jonathan Tiernan-Lock. He's barely breathing, seems very comfortable, but there's plenty of riders on his wheel that are feeling an awful lot less comfortable. And here comes Jonathan Tiernan-Lock. This is the moment when he pulls the trigger to see what response there's going to be from behind, and they're in agony on his wheel, and he's looking very good indeed. He's drawing riders clear behind as riders are shelled off the back.
Yeah, that's Von Hoff there from Garmin Sharp starting to lose contact. All these riders starting to struggle now, and is that Caruso there? It's Caruso.
Damiano Caruso of the Liquigas team has managed to get in there. Garmin are represented as well as the attacks come on the front as well. Here's Mark Demar, who has attacked United Healthcare rider. And Samuel Sanchez, somewhat surprisingly, seems to be struggling a little bit. Jan Barta attempts to get them back into contention.
And here we go, Caruso and Haas from Garmin Sharp, the only two riders at the moment able to stay with Tiernan-Lock. We've got Netap just starting to come up, as we see Coppel now here just starting to lose ground.
So it's going to shreds. Ronan McLaughlin looks as if he's cooked in a big way as Jerome Coppel tries to go again and get back into contention, joined by Samuel Sanchez up front in the peloton. Damiano Caruso, is that him? As Jonathan Tiernan-Lock has managed to establish a lead group of 4 or 5 riders, and the peloton desperately trying to get back into contention.
And Lee Howard, I think, is the rider who's missed out at the moment. It's Lee Howard, the rider in second position from Orica Green Edge, who's lost contact. That second place in the IG general classification behind Tiernan-Lock. Looks like he's starting to lose ground as the Euskaltel rider here, Sanchez, gets up to the 3 leaders now.
Oh, and he's absolutely dying. He's looking behind to see can he get some help from Coppel, but Coppel's gone. Meanwhile, up front, Mark Demar, where is he getting this strength from? Absolutely stunning work from the United Healthcare rider, who's been to the fore all week, as Urtasun looks like he's certainly in good form too. Ivan Basso very much in contention and playing a watching brief, as it's Mark Demar that does all the damage on the front of the break. Those remaining riders are going to fall back into the clutches of this group as Jonathan Tiernan-Lock takes it up at the front.
Yep, and there's a handful of riders just starting to come across, but I cannot see Lee Howard. I do not see an Orica Green Edge jersey there.
So Nathan Haas has managed to get there. Nathan Haas, of course, lying in 3rd place and just 18 seconds behind. So this is the select group of GC contenders that Jonathan Tiernan-Lock has managed to gather clear of the bunch, as the break up front are battling for stage honours.
Sanchez is moving forward now. He's gone off the front, just starting to attack over the top.
create some damage.
I think he's just caught at the back a little bit, and you know, maybe done a hard turn just before that, but he's certainly recovered well. He's dug in a big way as the digs are coming too from this group behind. Two Source Odgeson riders represented, Garmin, Liquigas, and of course T0ur in the form of Jonathan Tiernan-Locke, who's starting to show the pain on his face.
Yeah, Basso here just trying to crouch down on the descent here, the short, sharp descent, just trying to stay with these three riders.
Now the gap inside a minute now with 7.5 kilometers to go. It's hard to imagine that this group behind, but they've relatively fresh legs. They haven't been chasing. They've been sitting in the wheels all day. And now these riders up front who've been going up and over and really laying down the maximum power they could for the length of time they're out there. Now they're starting to feel it, but will they be able to hang on? Just 50 seconds now between them and the race leaders behind.
Yeah, 16%, that sign there for this descent. Sharp, technical descent through the shadows there, and all four riders so far have made it through as we just go back to the group chasing them.
And the group up front of the chasing group, Jonathan Tiernan-Locke goes to the front again. Caruso onto his wheel like a shot. Nathan Haas is never far from Jonathan Tiernan-Locke, but look at that for a picture of concentration and intensity, and he's focused on only one thing, and that's going for it, and it's great to see. It's fascinating to see a yellow jersey not content just to sit in the wheels of the other riders, but trying to make the pace, because he knows he's got to try and distance himself from Lee Howard.
Coppel here, the French rider, trying to go across now. He's jumped across to the four leaders to join the two Spaniards from Escatel.
That's great effort from Coppel, finished in the top 15 in the Tour de France a few years ago, and also third in the under-23 competition at the Tour de France. Hasn't really made it as a big stage race contender, more of a time trial rider, and this not really your average time trial course, so it's going to be a tough ask for him to hang on with these other riders.
David Clark there, number 22, Node 4 Giordano has made this group. Who else is there? Looks like there's a GB jersey. That's Josh Edmondson. I'm pretty sure that that's Josh, the rider who really did come to the fore in yesterday's stage in the final few kilometres to go clear and try and go across to the two riders.
Euskaltel, sorry Rob, I have a great opportunity here. They have two riders up there, and it looks as if Urtasun has pretty strong legs.
But I'll tell you who has got strong legs at the moment. That's that rider we're looking at here, really tapping out of tempo. He doesn't look fatigued whatsoever at the moment. The cadence that he's holding as we go back yet again to these four riders, still 55 seconds with 6 kilometres to go. Pretty sure that the winner of today's stage is going to come from one of four of these as Sanchez takes up the pace on the front.
And Jonathan Tiernan-Locke looked behind, and he had Damiano Caruso on his wheel. He's 23 seconds behind on general classification, and Tiernan-Locke said, any chance of a dig out? And he got a shake of the head. Caruso is really suffering there.
He is gritting his teeth there. It's not a choice of I don't want to ride it, so I can't, as we see that style there of Dave Clark on the back here, number 22, Node 4 Giordano rider. Great riding by him. He certainly enjoys these kind of roads.
They pulled the team cars from the break out, perhaps a little earlier in terms of distance, as you might expect, but team cars are all out of it, so it's a match race between these four riders up front and the expanding group of general classification contenders led by Jonathan Tiernan-Locke. A few riders have managed to clip across to it. There's very few riders doing any work. Indeed, there's really only Tiernan-Locke. It's left to him to try and see what he can do. Less about chasing these riders and more about putting as much distance as he possibly can between himself and Lee Howard.
And the rider who, if he wants to win the stage, needs to apply pressure on the uphill, and that was Basso, as we see Marcin Białobrocki being brought back from the remnants of that original break as Josh Edmondson goes on the attack. Wow, Josh Edmondson, the young GB rider, pushing forward now.
Oh, what a fantastic performance by Josh Edmondson, 2 days in a row. He's a young rider, but clearly has wonderful powers of recovery. And Edmondson has managed to go clear of Jonathan Tiernan-Lock. Tiernan-Lock won't be too concerned about Josh Edmondson. He's not really a contender overall.
No, he's at 6 minutes 15 in 15th place. It's a good move for him. He's just going for the stages. Ivan Basso, this is what he needs to do. If he wants to take this stage, he needs to go on the hills. He's got rid of his main competitor now, I think, in Sanchez, who's just starting to lose ground.
Good news for Basso. Samuel Sanchez has a decent turn of pace at the conclusion of any stage, so he'd definitely like to put some distance between himself and Basso. But Urtasun has looked very, very strong. Absolutely no difficulty in responding to that attack from Ivan Basso. And as he goes to the front, has a little look behind as if to say, well, I don't mind if Samuel Sanchez comes back to us. So you suspect that as Mark Demar attempts to get back into contention, suspect that Ivan Basso is really going to have to take it up himself.
He is. I think that Esquetel, though, Urtasun does need to push on, because I think Sanchez, his day's over now. But I think the danger man now is that Mark Demar, after the stage that he won into Stoke. He is the danger man.
Quick tribute for Josh Edmondson. He's got a narrow advantage over the Jersey group, but so impressive. And clearly a man for the future. This British cycling team, which was a late addition to the list of riders, and they're certainly showing that they were well worth their invitation.
Most definitely. As Mark Demar, he's made contact now with the two leaders, Basso and Urtasun. Basso there, he's not going to contribute on the flat. He's going to wait for this last climb that's going to come up in the next couple of kilometres or so as Mark Demar puts in the attack.
Sees a couple of bike lengths between himself and Urtasun and decides to go for it, but it looks as if it's relatively comfortably marshalled by Urtasun.
4 kilometres to go now as Edmondson. He realises that his hope for glory is slightly coming to an end now as this group comes up to him. Not surprising, the man bringing him back is Tiernan-Lock. He's not concerned about riders ahead of him. These three riders aren't going to be up there for IG Markets general classification. He's not interested with the stage. He's interested in pushing forward and taking more time out of the guys behind him. Lee Howard from Orica Green Edge is that rider.
I'll tell you what, the stage is on, because they're inside half a minute. 28 seconds was the last time check we got there a few moments ago. And you know, if these riders continue to finesse ahead of them, as they seem to be a little bit too cagey, Mark Demar is desperately trying to get clear of Ivan Basso.
Yeah, Basso, the best climber from this group, but probably the less explosive, the least of the three riders here with the explosive ability. Having said that, he's the one who's put the move in.
Ivan Basso knows he has to try and get clear of Mark Demar. Urtasun responds. Will they manage to head as we see the group behind? Jonathan Tiernan-Lock now sitting on the wheel of Nathan Haas as Bernie Sulzberger has come back from the break. The remaining stragglers from that 10-man break are mopped up by the Jersey group, and they desperately try to stay in contention. Josh Edmondson has been controlled at this point. Demar, Urtasun and Ivan Basso up front. Demar, they're leaving on the front, and we suspect that they need to keep riding if they're going to hold off Jonathan Tiernan-Lock et al.
They do need to keep riding. They can't afford to start playing cat and mouse just yet. As we see Netap trying to go clear again. Moving on, and it's the guy in that gold jersey taking up the chase yet again. Tiernan-Lock and Sanchez. He's starting to pull forward again and regain contact with these three riders. That is good news for Sanchez.
Great news for Sanchez, great news indeed for Urtasun as well. And it's a very, very fast downhill, and well, certainly the man with the biggest reputation as a descender in this group is Samuel Sanchez. He goes to the front.
Yep, good move there by Sanchez. It's all downhill now, pretty much all downhill and very technical. That will suit him, that will suit his style, himself and Demar.
Yeah, the Jersey group are Group 3 on the road and 51 seconds in arrears, so significant advantage indeed between the break and the Jersey. So we'll get the time check to the second group and the third group at that point. Okay, 51 seconds between the Jersey and the riders up front.
Yellow jersey group just going through that 3 kilometre mark there now. 51 seconds the advantage the four riders have over them. This one lone chaser from Netap. trying to go clear.
2K from the finish. As NetApp once more involved in the action, as indeed they were yesterday with Leopold Koenig. And up front, it's the meat in the Euskaltel sandwich are Ivan Basso and Marc Demar. And Sanchez and Urtazan up front have the tactical advantage. 1.7 kilometers from the finish, heading down this hill. The hot money would be on Sanchez, but it looks as if he's going to have to lead it out.
Yeah, he's doing an awful lot of work on the front. Still 1.6 kilometers to go.
As they sweep down the hill, this is a perfect opportunity, you would imagine, for someone like Sammy Sanchez. Not particularly technical. They do have a little bit of a bend to the left before they make that final right-hander. The final right-hander is testing and challenging. And then it is around about 350, 400 meters to the finish from there. So it's going to be a long lead-out, difficult lead-out, unless a rider managed to get a little bit of a gap. You'd imagine they'll finesse a little bit more as we see them sweeping through this left-hander. And piling down towards the final right-hand bend. It's Samuel Sanchez on the front, Marc Demar for United Healthcare in the second position. Urtazan, Sanchez, Euskaltel teammate in third place, and Ivan Basso at the back of the group, who would be least favoured of these riders. As Marc Demar goes for it, as Sanchez, they leave on the front, so Marc Demar sweeping around to try and see who's coming. Sanchez looks as if... here comes Marc Demar going for it. He leads it out, and Sanchez gives a big cheer for Urtazan as shouts him on. He's trying to lead out his teammate. Urtazan looks like he's got good legs. Who's going to get it? Will it be Urtazan gets it? Gets his hands in the air by the narrowest of margins from Marc Demar, with Ivan Basso in third place. And Samuel Sanchez celebrates after setting it up beautifully. He had huge confidence in his teammates' sprint, and it was well justified. Wonderful teammates work from the Euskaltel team, who come out with the Tour of Britain stage victory in Dartmouth. As we see the group behind the lone NetApp rider, and looking further back, Jonathan Tiernan-Locke has managed to put significant distance between himself and Lee Howard, so it's his jersey will be retained. As we see Nathan Haas leads out. No bonus seconds left for him.
Koenig there, number 105.
Leopold Koenig for the second day in a row is in contention, but not quite managing to get to the break. Good news for Jonathan Tiernan-Locke. Blow of the cheeks as he comes across the line. 50 seconds in arrears and comfortably in the IG Gold jersey for another day. So wonderful performance from all riders in the break, as Pablo Urtazan comes up with stage honours and accepts the congratulations of his teammates.
Great riding there by the two Euskaltel Escadi riders, and it was Urtazan, Pablo Urtazan, who took the spoils today.
And what a performance. I mean, we should pay tribute to Samuel Sanchez, because in my thinking, it was all about Sanchez for the gallop, but clearly he knew that Urtazan had obviously had great legs and had a decent turn of pace.
He was on paper, I would certainly have put Sanchez, but then the way he was riding at the back end of that race in those last few hundred metres, they'd switched it, and it was all about Urtazan. And here we can see Sanchez just looking for his rider, and Marc Demar was forced to take it up fairly early. Basso, no chance of getting involved in that sprint. As we said, not the most explosive of riders, but Urtazan it was, who just managed to get by. And Marc Demar denied a second stage win in this race, in this year's Tour of Britain.
Marc Demar fires first, but didn't have the strength after a tough day out. And, well, that's stage racing, because Urtazan on any other parkour perhaps mightn't be able to get past Marc Demar, but he had fresh legs and clearly is going very, very well indeed. Ivan Basso, disconsolate third, did his level best to try and get clear and to try and, but we always really had to, it's going to have to be a solo victory for him if he was going to manage it.
Yeah, and Koenig, the rider from NetApp, who it was that went clear, and a rider who Tiernan-Locke certainly wouldn't be overly interested in chasing and bringing back, because he's nowhere on general classification.
Great performance by Jonathan Tiernan-Locke, who is, well, we'll wait for full confirmation, but it looks as if he's done great work on confirming himself in the IG Gold jersey.
Tough day.
Welcome back to the little Devon seaside resort of Saint-Tropez, doubling up as Dartmouth for the day. Glorious weather, glorious race. To have said a few years ago that you might see Ivan Basso and Sami Sanchez in a breakaway into Dartmouth racing for all their lives, you wouldn't believe me, would you?
Certainly not. I mean, what a spectacular day. I mean, those guys really took this race seriously and ignited it from the off. And they, you know, Sanchez rode most of the climbs up the front for his teammate. But yeah, not.
Your microphone wasn't working there briefly. I mean, just what spectacular racing and what a spectacular setting for it.
Yeah, I mean, the crowd's out today. You know, Devon should be proud of the people on the side of the roads. It was just like being at the Tour de France, if not better. But as you said, to see the Olympic champion resplendent in his golden shoes, you know, tiptoeing up the climbs, you know, was quite something to behold. And of course, Ivan Basso, Grand Tour winner twice. Yeah, it's really, really something.
Rob, you might have been forgiven for wondering in those sort of rainy days up in Dumfries and Blackpool quite what the Basque team thought they were doing in this race. But Pablo Urtasun has had a very aggressive race and figured in the King of the Mountains. And to get that stage win today, led out by Sami Sanchez, fabulous.
I know, well, I was counting on Sanchez to do the business. On paper, he was the rider who I would have imagined would have been up there. But they swapped it round. And yeah, it was Sanchez who did the work there for Urtasun, and I don't know who was more happy, Urtasun to take the victory or his teammate there in back and forth, Sanchez, as he realised that his teammate had done it. He crosses the line there, and there's two sets of hands going up. And yeah, Marc Demar, you know, denied a second stage victory, and Basso, there was no chance of Basso. You know, he doesn't have the explosivity to get there in a finish like that, obviously with those two guys. But yeah, fantastic. That was proper bike racing out there today.
Well, I mean, we'll come, quite right, Rob. I mean, we'll come to the race behind that was equally intriguing in just a second. But every race, doesn't it, throws up its heroes, and Marc Demar is one of them. Let's just have a look at the order of passage over the line then. There we have it. Pablo Urtasun in first place, Marc Demar, the Curaçaoan, Ivan Basso, Sami Sanchez. That was a group of four. Then there was a little gap to yesterday's hero, Leopold Koenig. He figured very well again today, not going to figure in the general classification. Then came the race for GC, and as you can see, Nathan Haas proving once again that he's not dead and buried in this race, and they're going to have to watch him tomorrow. Bernie Sulzberger, good ride from him. John Tiernan-Lock maintaining his lead then very comfortably today at the end of it, and Huzarski, who's had a good race, and that man Damiano Caruso for Ivan Basso's Liquigas team. As you were pretty much in the general classification race, the one rider they will have got rid of today is Lee Howard.
Yeah, obviously we're gradually whittling down the main protagonist to tee things up tomorrow for a really exciting stage. But yeah, I think John Tiernan-Lock and the Enduro team have got to be pretty satisfied with today. Okay, he's not moved any further forward in terms of the GC, but the danger man, the sprinter Lee Howard, is out of it. So yeah, it's all to play for tomorrow.
Psychology, important in bike racing. Nathan Haas proved that he's still strong, and when it comes to a sprint for the line, Tiernan-Lock probably not going to get the better of him.
No, he's not, but at the moment it doesn't look like it needs to. I mean, Enduro did a fantastic job there of pegging that group, but leaving them out there far enough so that they could take the spoils and that they could take the main part of those time bonuses. So in the end today, it was fairly irrelevant and it didn't matter, but he's looking supremely confident now, Tiernan-Lock, and Enduro are doing a fantastic job out there.
Matt, did it play into their hands a little that that breakaway was not only so large but so powerful, and that ultimately with those back-loaded intermediate sprints that offered time bonuses, there was no way that Howard was going to get them because the break was too strong?
It was, I mean, if I was going to be the DS on the morning of today's stage, it panned out exactly right. You know, a group that could stay away, had the firepower, and all Enduro had to do was to peg it. At one point, to be honest with you, Sky joined in the chase, and I thought that Enduro had done a bit too much. But again, the lead went out again, and I think Sky gave up eventually when it was like 1.5, 2 minutes. But again, when Basso and Sanchez started launching on the running, which was extremely difficult, again, the back, well, the John Tiernan-Lock's group were never going to catch them. So as Rob said, all the bonuses were mopped up.
Interesting, isn't it? Without race radio, you can never be sure of the gaps. You're not getting that kind of information there. So John Tiernan-Lock could never be sure whether the stage win was realistic and those 10 seconds were realistic. So he had to keep a very cool, calculated head there, didn't he, and not go into the red. No,
he did. And also, you've got the fact here that it's only a maximum of 6 riders per team. And they're obviously down to 5, having lost Dempster. And, you know, there's quite a few teams now down to 4 and 5. And so that alone makes it difficult to control the race. That coupled with the radio and the terrain that we had here, that was a great day, and I loved watching that today.
How much do you think local knowledge played a part here, Matt? When we spoke to John Tiernan yesterday, didn't we, Robert? And I said, how much of a factor is it that these are your local roads? How well do you know him? He said, like the back of my hand. When he attacked at 10k to go, he would have seen that coming, but the rest of them wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, obviously all the riders have the benefit of a race manual, but it doesn't show. It doesn't show the minutiae and the detail of the running. That running was absolutely brutal. But JT knew what to do. He launched it from the first major drag with about 5 or 6k to go. He went from the bottom and just shredded that bunch, and obviously took another elite group clear. But that running was awful. I mean, if I'd have been a rider, I'd be thinking, when is this going to end? When's it going to end? But then the final 3k, they could play a little bit of cat and mouse, because it was essentially a long swooping descent into the finish. But a really brutal, running that JT would have absolutely revelled in.
We'll come to the Pete Williams, who's had a good day, very briefly. But Rob, just to sum up what Matt was saying there, in a Tour de France stage, a mountain stage on the Tour, the profile is much easier to read. You have a long valley road and then a long climb. But here, it's higgledy-piggledy, bits and pieces, and you really have to know the detail.
Well, it is, and Matt mentioned it the other day. You have your categorised climbs that are in the book, but sometimes they're easier than bits of the road in between, and that was the case here. The backloaded nature of the circuit, really was tough, and I think that Jonathan T0ur can take confidence in the fact not only the way that his legs are going and the way he's performing, but that local knowledge was key, I think, there today, and he used that to maximum effect, and he got rid of Lee Howard. He was the one, of all the riders in GC who he would have wanted to have got rid of, he's the man, and he's done it.
Said that. He did say yesterday that Nathan Haas was his big threat. OK, from one British success story in Jonathan T0ur to another one, Pete Williams has been leading the Yodel Sprints jersey for many a day, and is honing in ever so close to his target now of the overall win in that competition. He's been speaking to Phil Sheehan.
OK, Pete, you've held on to the points jersey. How did you find it out there today? Grippy stage?
Yeah, it's very grippy, those roads. It's just relentless, up and down all day. They managed to position the first sprint up a hill just before the first categorised climb, so that got quite a few of us swinging, the guys who went for the sprint up the first climb there, so it was just grippy all day though.
And a similar sort of profile tomorrow, maybe not quite as relentless. What are your hopes of holding on to that points jersey?
Well, I'm hoping, I've not checked the results after today's stage, but I think there's only my teammate that can realistically take it off me, and I don't think he'll do that to me, I'm sure, so I'm pretty confident I'll be stood here tomorrow.
Well, you might have to have words if he does. Good luck tomorrow, thank you.
Cheers, thanks.
That's Pete Williams there. Job well done for him today, and as we know there from that interview, his nearest rivals in that competition, even though it's pretty much done and dusted, his teammates, so nothing's going to happen there.
His teammates, yeah. So they've ridden well. Marcin, I think he upset Coppell at one point by sitting on and then nicking the points, but that's his job, that's what he was there for, and they've done a fantastic job with that. And yeah, Node for Giordano, and all, as we said yesterday, all of the British domestic-based teams have really risen to the occasion, and probably none more so than them.
Unlike your microphones, which obdurately seem not to be rising to the occasion. It is a British success story here. The weather is absolutely fantastic. We'll see more podiums and more interviews after a short break. Do join us in a minute. Saturday in the sunshine in Dartmouth. Fantastic, isn't it? What a race we've had, what huge crowds we've had, and really Tour de France style crowds, I'd have said, without a shred of exaggeration. Sometimes we like to exaggerate these things. Don't have to today, do we?
No, we don't. We certainly don't. I've been and seen the Tour, so has Rob. You guys have as well. You know, it's oh, here we are. We've got the.
It's a general classification they've provisionally worked out. John Tiernan there leads now by 18 seconds to his biggest rival, Nathan Haas. Damiano Caruso is not out of it though at 23. Everyone else there, well, Lee Howard's dropped to 4th place at 1 minute and 2 seconds, and you would have to say that that is probably that, wouldn't you, Rob?
Yeah, we've lost a good 6 or 7 riders now. The rest of them all over a minute behind, so it's just 2 other riders that Jonathan T0ur and his teammates from Enduro Racing have got to look out for. So at the moment, it's all good for them.
It is all good for them, and it is most certainly all good for Christian Haus, who had a huge lead of 42 points going into the King of the Mountains competition today. And although Pablo Urtasun has been very aggressive and has paid back 23 of those points, he still has a huge lead going into the final day. So he's pulling on the Skoda jersey one more time, and well, it's white on the black of Rafa Condor there, not for the first occasion. And he has had a magnificent tour, and well, he's going to close it out tomorrow, isn't he, Matt?
Yeah, you'd have thought so. Barring accidents, yeah, Christian's going to take that home again. Obviously, John Tiernan won that jersey for the same team last year. And what a shining example, you know, Christian House is for the very, very young, essentially development team that John Heritage has assembled this year. So, yeah, a wonderful role model. And, yeah, I hope he pulls it off tomorrow.
Rob, he's been canny, hasn't he? Because he does one day on, one day off a lot of the time.
He does. He's been doing shift work. But when he's gone out there, he has made the most of it. And I've got a feeling that he did a little bit of that today as well. And we may well see him going forward tomorrow, trying to get more points. Having said that, Urtazan, he'll probably be quite pleased and confident with his stage victory today, and perhaps he'll roll over now and let Christian take that jersey home with him.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, that justifies their position on this tour. But absolutely, Urtazan couldn't do anything about Christian House in the end, and here he is talking to Phil.
Christian, tough day in the saddle today after your endeavours yesterday, and your lead in the King of the Mountains jersey is down to 19 points. How was it?
Well, it's pretty hard today. You know, yesterday took a lot out of me, and so did the other days before then. You know, so when Urtazan went, there was really nothing I could do about it, and I always said from the beginning, if you know, if someone like that takes the jersey from me, then I won't be that disappointed, because, you know, it went on force and I just didn't have it. So, you know, we'll see. Tomorrow's another day. There's I think there's 26 points available. I've got a 19-point lead, so it's not over by any means. You know, and he'll have tired legs tomorrow, so I've just got to try and score a few more points, and you know, hopefully it'll still be mine.
You do, of course, have local knowledge. That's one advantage over Orterson, I guess. How well do you know those roads that you'll be racing on tomorrow?
To be honest, not that well. So that advantage isn't really there. I know how they're small and narrow, and you know, a small group can get away, and that, you know, Enduro might well want that. So, you know, if that happens and neither of us are in it, then I'm quite happy with that, and you know, I should be all right for the overall. Just take it as it comes.
Good luck, Christian. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Yeah.
Christian House there, and next up on the podium in the United Healthcare jersey, about to pull on for the umpteenth time on this tour, the blue points jersey leader, and he's been that way for some stages. The boy Van Poppel, one of our favourite riders. He's been magnificently consistent. That's why he's been wearing that jersey, although he did lose a little bit of time in the general classification today. So his race in those terms are over, aren't they? But he's represented his team very well, hasn't he?
Yeah, of course, they picked up a stage win as well. So United Healthcare have an absolutely wonderful Tour of Britain, and I've not seen Boy Van Poppel ever ride this strongly. And hopefully this will you know, be a bit of a boost for him, for his confidence for the future. But I bet, again, I mentioned it before, but, you know, pulling off the points jersey in a Tour is something that's obviously in the family, with his father winning the green jersey in the Tour de France.
Yeah, absolutely. Famous dad, famous son. Now you can make your name in this kind of a race, and he's made his name certain of that. Phil Sheehan's been talking to him too.
Boy, tough day in the saddle today. Day too far in the Tour of Britain for you in the chase for GC.
Yeah, it was a really hard day, all up and down and small roads. And at 18K from the start, it was the Boney sprint. So, and I'm only 20 seconds behind. So we want to do a sprint, and everybody starts sprinting, but it was like uphill. So everybody starts sprinting, and it looked like there was no end coming. And everybody did their sprint, and we were so we were broken till, and then it was still 400 meters to go, and that killed me for the day. I was suffering all day long, and but I'm happy I'm still in the jersey. So,
Boy, thanks very much for your thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you.
Suffering all day long, that's what bike racing is, Boy Van Poppel, you know that. And this is the man who made them all suffer today, John Tiernan, his second day pulling on the gold leader's jersey. This is what he came to the race for, and now he is very, very close indeed, isn't it, Rob? And if he pulls it off tomorrow, well, the first British success in the best part of 2 decades.
It will be, and about time too. And I think the level of riding that we've got in the UK now, it is about time, and I don't think it's going to be a surprise, to be honest. I think the race has played into his hands by virtue of the fact that the two main stages, the crucial stages, are down this way, and he knows the roads extremely well.
Indeed. Why has it taken us so long to pull this off, if indeed that's what's just happened in terms of a British win?
It's difficult to say. I mean, it's just we've been like a fledgling country for so long, and since 1998, when obviously lottery funding came in, the sport has gradually been on the up. Olympic success after Olympic success, and it's about, and now is our time basically, but it's been an extremely long time. I think the last winner of our own home tour was Chris Lillywhite in 1993 in the milk race. So yeah, and I rode that one, yeah, believe it or not. But yeah, that was a long time ago, but it's wonderful to see this success, and yeah, I'm extremely pleased for Enduro Racing and for John Tiernan and for Devon.
Okay, Matt, thanks very much to you. Thanks to you, Rob. Enjoy the sun. Get yourself scum blocked up. It's going to be a long, hot afternoon, and tomorrow proves to be tomorrow should be exactly the same, long and hot and very, very interesting. A few categorised climbs plus an uphill finish on cobbles into Guildford. We go from Reigate to Guildford for the final stage of the Tour of Britain live at 2:30. Join us then.